So welcome to Junior Parent Night. I am Diane McCarthy. I'm one of the college and career counselors. This is week 4 for me, so brand new here to Lowell High. Loving it so far. It's pretty amazing. And this is Jen McGarry. She is one of the college and career counselors as well. So we will walk through, oops, I hit the wrong button already. These are all the counselors here that we have at Lowell High. So basically what we have is we have 3 college and career counselors. We'll explain a little bit about what we do as college and career counselors. And then we have our house counselors. So your students are working directly with their house counselors through multiple processes throughout the year. And then they have us as detailed resources as they need them, in addition to some of the programming that we do, classwork that we do, and just college visits, things like that. So make a note of your student's school counselor. So in B House, we have Van Sarin and Ileana Figueroa. In C House, we have Rithy Young and Rhonda DeVost. D House, we have Crystal Quinton, Lindsay Roy, and in E House, we have Nally Meng and Shelby Beaufair. And they have the graphic that's there. This is also on the school website. And then in College and Career, we have Heather Bruner, Jennifer McGarry, that's her over there, and Diane McCarthy right here.
This is going to be posted to the website, the Lowell High School Student Support Services website. I see people taking pictures and whatnot, so this whole presentation will be posted, so you don't have to worry about taking too many notes.
So what we're going to cover tonight is basically the college process. The reason we spend so much time on the college process is because it's the most intensive process that we have for our postgraduate. We have a lot of students who are also interested in the military and trade, and we work with them as well. However, this process, for those of you who went to college 10 years ago, 30 years ago, or have not gone to college, it is a totally different process now than it was even 10 years ago, we'll say. So we really like to educate on it because there are several different components to it. So we're going to talk about the college process. We're going to talk about the junior year timeline, upcoming events, the Lowell High graduation requirements, some detailed review on 2- and 4-year colleges and universities and the expectations, admissions, how to get into college, what to do, how to apply, SATs, which is changing every single month and how colleges think about them, common application, a little bit on financial aid. We actually have a meeting come in and do financial aid presentations, and then a little bit on Ambiance, which is our college search tool. So junior year, it is kind of a scary time for our juniors because all of a sudden we're shoving them into the, you've been in school for 12 years and we're going to kick you out in a year. And we really try and get them used to the idea of thinking about what's next. Some of them step back and say, but I'm only a junior, I have plenty of time. But most of them are actually applying to different programs at the start of their senior year. So we really like to kick this whole process off with them about getting ready to graduate, thinking about the process, and thinking about applying to college during their junior year. So each of you should have been able to grab one of these pieces of paper while you were outside. If you didn't, you can get it on your way out. But it's the junior timeline. Your students have all seen this presentation, just so you know. The house counselors have already done large group meetings with every junior. If your student didn't go to one of those, maybe they were absent that day, Ms. McGarry is holding focus blocks on this process for juniors, and it's always possible to meet with the house counselor too, okay? So the junior timeline, at the beginning of the year, we expected them to look at their class schedule and make sure they had everything they needed to graduate for junior year, or a plan for junior and senior year to graduate. We asked them to think about, if you're not involved in anything, what can you get involved in? How can you connect to your community, whether it's through sports, work, helping out in home, or volunteering. They took the PSATs this fall. Don't know what I just hit. We asked them to plan for the SATs, the ACTs, which we'll talk about, and the TOEFL exam. The TOEFL exam is for any student who has been an English language learner during their time in high school. Okay, so your house counselor or one of us will be speaking to students about that exam and where they can take it and how they can get access. They are starting to research the 4-year admissions standards. We had a huge Merrimack Valley College Fair back in the fall, so that was open to all students and families in the Merrimack Valley, and then starting the college search. We also, right now, we're in this blue box right here. So right now, we are starting the course selection process. So we're asking them, think about when you want to take for senior year. Do you want to take an early college class to potentially open up opportunity to get a free year of college after high school through the Promise program, through early college? Do you want to take an AP class? What kind of testing do you want? Do you want to test in the spring of junior year for SATs? Do you want to wait until the fall? Do none of your colleges require the SATs? Talk to the family. This is really important, and it's a little intimidating for a high school student because they don't really want to have that conversation sometimes because it's admitting that they're going to be leaving the nest, and that's scary. So talk to the family. Understand, what do your parents want? What do your guardians want? What do you want? And have that open conversation. Begin building your colleges in Naviance. Naviance is an amazing tool that we use all the time. Students use it very heavily as we get into this college research process. And then attend college visits and info sessions in person whenever possible. There's also virtual college visits. But we also had 50 to 75 colleges visit our high school just this fall alone. So small group meetings for students to come down and meet the colleges. They'll then get into the spring, which is visiting colleges. We really, really stress visiting colleges. We'll get into that a little bit more. Again, SATs, TOEFL, think about who you want to write letters of recommendation, think about your college essays. So this is when you're starting to really think about, okay, this is happening. I've talked to my counselor about colleges, I've gone to focus lessons, I've gone to the College and Career Center. I'm really starting to think about this. And then we have summer. Summer, a lot of students say, I don't want to do any work over the summer. We love when students come back in the fall, like I start my common application, I know who I'm asking for letters of recommendation, I know what I'm writing my essay on, because they are the least stressed seniors of all. Students come in senior year, they have the same workload, the same course load, the same sports, the same volunteer, the same responsibilities at home, and then we layer college on top of that, all of that work. So we say, whatever you can do over the summer, go ahead and do. And again, we'll be posting this to the website. Our voices are also being recorded, so we'll share that as well. What's happening right now, we have ongoing lunches on drop-ins on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. We are in the College and Career Lab for about 4 to 5 hours. Students literally just come in with, I have a question about financial aid. I have a question about a college. I have a question about a trade. I have a question about the SAT, and we talk to them. So it's literally, they just come in and ask the 3 of us questions. There's one of us there every day, and they know that we're available. If for some reason they need help on a Monday and their house counselor isn't available, they just come see us in our suite as well. So that's ongoing all year. The junior classroom Naviance presentations and junior kickoff meetings, that happened in December. I got to see that my first day, I think, and it was pretty cool. So the juniors have heard these kickoffs. We have the PSAT results, those are in, juniors have received their score. We have College and Career Flex Block workshops throughout the year, so if your student hasn't told you, every Wednesday we have a Flex Block. The students have the opportunity to sign up what they want to sign up for. So we host Flex Blocks every week on internships, on college, on, I can't even promise, anything that pertains to college and career. And then the teachers hold Flex Block as well. I heard I missed some great Flex Blocks during the World Cup. Just saying. And then we're also starting that course scheduling process. So teachers are working with students on what courses they want to take for next year. They've gotten a rundown of what courses might be of interest, and then we start to go into the detail the week of January 30th. And really start to delve into that one-on-one course scheduling. So every student will meet with their house counselor to do one-on-one course scheduling. This is really important for our juniors so that they can understand what it is they need to graduate for when they're doing that schedule. We also ask that people pay attention to any spring college fairs. So we had a huge one this fall. There is an enormous one coming up in May. I'm not sure, is that in Boston this year? Okay. The NECAC College Fair is one of the biggest ones in the country. It's really fabulous. And then we always invite parents and students to join our Google Classroom as well. Just see where I'm at. Okay, this is you.
Just one more thing on the Google Classroom. Encourage your students, I think is this working? Yeah, okay. Encourage your students to join our Google Classroom. You're also more than welcome to join it as well, but encourage them. I don't know if you can see it, but it's, again, this presentation will be posted. We do a lot of great announcements on there. I don't want them to miss out on things, but if we have like colleges coming in or certain scholarship opportunities, There's some big scholarships coming up for like very highly motivated students like Questbridge and Posse, and we don't want students to miss out on these opportunities. So encourage your student, when you go home tonight, say, did you not join the College and Career Google Classroom? And make sure they do. And if not, they can come down and talk to us and we get them joined in. So I don't know if you can see this slide that good, but it's the graduation requirements for LHS, just to back up in terms of, before we're talking about college, let's talk about getting out of high school and what the requirements are to get out of Lowell High School. This will be reviewed in the senior meetings, the junior meetings with their house guidance counselor, but just to check in with your student, make sure they're on track with what they need to take and do to get out of LHS. They have to have passed the MCAS in ELA, math, and science. It's 20 credits of English, so that's 4 full years. 2 full years of U.S. history, including civics, 2 years of math, and it says algebra and geometry, and then 2 years of natural or physical science, and then there's also wellness credits of 15 credits. We just put that up there. We've reviewed this with the students. We'll continue the review. They'll review them with their house counselors in their individual meetings. But with that being said, even though those are the bare minimum requirements to graduate Lowell High School, obviously, college admission process has a much stricter admissions requirement. So we posted what for example, the Massachusetts State University requirements. So if your student was just to take that bare minimum to graduate Lowell High School, they would not be eligible to apply to be accepted into a Mass State University. So make sure that they're following it at least. This would be like the bare minimum if they want to go to college, but we always encourage even more than this. So it's 4 courses of English, 4 of math. It says specifically what math we're talking about here. 3 sciences, and they have to be lab sciences. So like forensics and things like that, we count, they're looking for biology, chemistry, physics, those kind of sciences with labs. Social science and history, 2 courses, 2 years of the same language for foreign language. So it can't be French 1, Spanish 1, it would have to be this French 1, French 2. And then electives. This, again, is now just the bare minimum for college admission standards. Depending on what colleges your students are looking for, we would work with them, they should be talking to their counselor about what they should be taking. Foreign language 2 courses, if they're applying to school colleges like Boston University, Harvard, Amherst College, they want to be taking 4 years of the same foreign language, all the way through maybe AP Spanish, for example. Or 4 years of a science. We say like at least 4 years of every major subject for those highly competitive colleges. And the reason why I say at least 4 years, because there's opportunities sometimes to double up and take 2 sciences, a dual enrollment at UML chemistry with maybe an AP science here at the high school. So it would obviously depend on your student, but I'd just like to caveat that first we start with the LHS graduation requirements, which is the bare minimum. This is the next step, just the bare minimum for the Mass State requirements. And then depending on the colleges your students are looking at, would require even possibly more rigorous and more years of these courses.
Can I just add on?
Yes.
So this actually can be found on all colleges' admissions page. They will actually tell you what courses are required to be admitted. Like UMass Lowell says, you must have 3 years of a lab science. You must have Algebra 2. For some of their programs, they'll require pre-calculus or calculus. Bentley says right out, don't bother applying if you don't have pre-calculus on your transcript. So definitely we recommend, as your student is thinking about different colleges, check out their admissions page to look at what are the requirements to be accepted. What courses do I need to have taken in high school to be accepted?
Yeah, so for example, like a nursing student this year wasn't able to apply to certain schools because she didn't have chemistry. So depending on the college, depending on the program, double check the requirements for those on each individual website. So this is the options after high school. So obviously today's focus is really on the 2- and 4-year college. This is the college kickoff meeting. We do provide a lot of different opportunities, flex blocks, workshops, options fairs, different speakers, and different opportunities for students who are interested in trades, the military, going straight to employment, or certificate programs at, say, like a Middlesex Community College. For example, I always talk about like the phlebotomy program. Some students who think that they don't want to go to college don't realize they can get like a 10-month certificate and get a job as something like a phlebotomist or like medical coding and billing. So there's opportunities and times to talk about things if you think your son or daughter is not on the path to just a 2-year associate's degree or 4 years bachelor degree, but tonight's focus is on that. And the reason is because that requires a lot of planning, the setup to applying to especially 4-year colleges. The process starts now, so that's why this presentation is focused on that. So 2 years, colleges, associate's degrees. So right in our backyard, we have Middlesex Community College. Northern Essex is also a great partner of ours. Some students don't know, our families don't know, in addition to the Lowell campus for Middlesex, there's also a Bedford campus, which is really beautiful. So if your student is considering and maybe not really so excited about Middlesex or whatever, take a drive over and check out the Bedford campus. It feels like a different world. It feels like a 4-year college. So the admissions requirements for a Middlesex Community College or Northern Essex is much lower than the admission requirements for 4-year colleges. Essentially, if your student, once they graduate high school, it's open enrollment, they will be able to get into a community college. There's no GPA or SAT requirement. There are different health programs, such as nursing, that will require additional requirements. Those aren't automatic entry, but general studies and different, business degrees and things like that will be open admissions. Very quick application process. We usually do it down in College and Career in like 45 minutes. You don't have to do anything over the summer ahead of time. Very easy to do. Did you want to talk about Early College Promise?
Sure. So Early College Promise is a relatively new program in the state of Massachusetts. There's 6 high schools in the state that have been lucky enough to be awarded grants to support students who are in the early college program with a year of community college totally free. Heather Bruner from our office runs the early college program for the school, and she actually met with all seniors who were interested in doing this Promise program today during a flex block. So it is, if your student takes an early college class, they are eligible to attend a year of Middlesex Community College after high school, totally free. Books are paid for, and they give you the support that might be needed through the college plan, or through the college, first-year college experience. So 6 high schools in the state of Massachusetts. It's amazing, absolutely amazing.
Great. And then the Mass Transfer Program, when you start at the community college, if your student gets their associate's degree there and earns 2.5 GPA, B or higher, they will get automatic admission to one of the state universities in Massachusetts. So it's definitely a cost-saving option. Ultimately, their bachelor's degree will be from whatever 4-year college they graduate from. So it's a way to save money in the first 2 years.
And if you get a 3.0 or higher, you get severe discounts on your funding, like very, very early on your tuition, very good discounts.
And they can also apply to other 4-year colleges after this too. It doesn't have to be the state university system. They can end up getting their degree at BU. So you could get a BU bachelor's degree for just paying 2 years of BU and having just paid the MCC or Northern Essex rates for freshman and sophomore year. So 4-year colleges, so now we're talking about our bachelor's degrees and what they're looking for. So we talked about, the students always ask me, what can I be doing for colleges now? The number one most important thing is maintaining good grades, getting good grades, doing as best as you can, and challenging yourself. And for every student, that's going to be like an individual conversation, whether it's somebody you can handle, if they're going from honors to high honors or high honors to AP or dual enrollment. It definitely depends on your student. You know them. Their house counselors know them. We can have conversations with them as well. But the colleges want to see students who are challenging themselves. They would rather see APs and honors, even if it does mean Bs, versus A pluses and honors all throughout, or A pluses in college level all throughout. They want to see students taking on that next level and challenging themselves. So the academic performance, the GPA is a number that obviously gets put out to the colleges. It's on the student's transcript. The transcript is for, I always jump ahead, just in case somebody doesn't know what the transcript is. The transcript goes back to their freshman year. It lists every class the student took, their level, and the final grade in every class. Come senior year, that's when quarter grades start getting published to the colleges. So colleges will see the quarter 1 grade, the quarter 2 grade, and then their final average. So those senior year quarter 1 grades are crucial. Not that any year isn't, but that is a very crucial time. They see those quarter grades. And in terms of the GPA number, it's tough because that is published on the transcript. But I like to talk about the transcript as being the story of the student's academic performance. Your student's not just a number. There's, a 3.5 student could be a student that was in all college level classes and did pretty good, or it could be a 3.5 student that was in APs and honors and high honors, and that's a very different student, both very successful and very good, but the student with the AP and the honors, they might be applying to some more highly competitive colleges, and the transcript tells the story of what their academic history is. So if your student's GPA isn't exactly where they want to be, or they feel like it's a cutoff from certain colleges, I'd encourage them just to look at their whole transcripts. Also, I think freshman year was COVID for this group. So I know that was tough with remote freshman year. That must have been really difficult for you guys, for them. And then coming in sophomore year, trying to adjust to high school must have been really, really difficult. So it's possible that some students are successful throughout all that, but it's very possible that students didn't do as well freshman year, took some time sophomore year to finally get into the swing of things, and that maybe this is the year they're shining. And that's going to show in their transcript. Their GPA might be damaged from it, and it's going to take a while to come back from that, but the colleges will see the history and the context of what your student did, which is why we also encourage students to have a close relationship with their house counselors, because their house counselors, they have to request a guidance letter of recommendation from their house counselor, and that house counselor can speak to that, the growth of the student, the the challenge of coming in through COVID, and then now look what they are and what they've accomplished. Essay is a huge part of the college application, especially as SAT scores and ACT scores are becoming less important. So I'll jump over to SAT scores for a second. There are many schools, especially through COVID and after COVID, that are remaining and staying test optional. However, there are still some schools that came back, like MIT, for example, came back and said we're still requiring them. This year, this junior class, it's still a bit of a question mark. Some have already come out and published saying it's going to be test optional. There's still some question marks out there for some schools as well. So as your students developing their list, see what kind of schools they're looking at and whether or not they've announced their test optional policy, whether they're going to require it or not. We are recommending that students do sit for the SATs. Because they never know. Maybe they think they're applying to all test optional schools, but maybe in the fall they find out about it's a school they want to apply to and it requires SATs, or maybe they want to change into a nursing major. Maybe that requires SATs. So we still want to encourage students to take them. Whether or not they send them is going to be on a case-by-case basis, a college-by-college basis. So back to the essay, so the reason why the essay is becoming more important is if your student chooses not to submit, or does not need to submit, or if it's test optional, more things are going to come into play and focus in on more importance, like the essay. So we encourage students to start those. They'll be starting those in their English classes, but to really hone those in over the summer, coming back in the fall with a very strong, almost final draft of that. I think we've told the students, but the prompts usually don't change, so those we can work with them on, and we can show them what those are so they can kind of get an idea of what that is and what they're looking at. Letters of recommendation, typically every college is going to be different, but we typically recommend that students ask teachers from their junior year, so the students, like the teachers they have right now. I typically say one from the humanities department, so in English or social studies, and a math or science. And I say typically because it definitely depends on the colleges your students are applying to or the programs. It's possible if they're applying to an engineering program, they might require a math and a science. So looking at the college websites to see what those requirements are. And we recommend that students ask those teachers before they go off on summer break. To just ask them in person, see what's required of them. Usually the teachers will ask for a resume, or sometimes there's a brag sheet to fill out. They always say try to walk in your recommendation letters before you go off in the summer. And of course, on the first, second, third day of school, they loop back in with them, give them their final list, and work through the process of getting recommendation letters over. So they can start to think, I had a flex block earlier today with about 14 juniors, and we talked about some of this, and I could see, like this is a question to ask them when you get home or tomorrow morning, who do you think about asking for letter of recommendations? And I saw people's, their wheels were turning, they were thinking about the people they have connections with. I did have a couple good questions in there from one, a student who was like, well, I had this really good teacher in sophomore year, but you said you recommend teachers from junior year. And I said, well, if you maybe kept that relationship with that teacher, for example, if you were in a club and they were an advisor to that club and he was shaking his head yes. I was like, well, that makes sense. If you took his class sophomore year, and now you're in his club, he's the advisor, and you're like the club president, you've kept that relationship. So in that case, maybe that teacher does really make sense for you. So it's an individual conversation, but get them to think about who they're going to be asking over the next couple months. Extracurricular activities. Colleges want to see what students are doing outside the classroom. What do they do when they come home at the end of the day? That's going to be part of their application process. Some students like withhold in telling things. Encourage them, like if it's family responsibilities, if they have to babysit, or if they have to, I had one student in my office today, he has to take his grandmother weekly for doctor's appointments. Colleges need to know about these sorts of things. It might not necessarily be the typical, I played football, and I did cross country, and I was class president. So I noticed a lot of students, unless we sat and drew these things out of them, they would say, I don't have activities, or I'm not involved in anything, because there is possible things that they do outside. I get the question all the time, does work count? Yes, put work on there. Some students, I think our students, some of them are working 49 hours a week. Of course that would be included, which is another story, but of course that would be included on the resume. It does not necessarily have to be Lowell High School activities. So if you're thinking about your student right now and you're thinking like, okay, they go home and they play video games and not really involved in very much, now's the time they should get involved in something. Whether it's community service or job or club or activity at the high school, they can connect with us. They can connect with Mr. Dorton and his student activities or their house office to see if there's different things to be involved in. Because colleges are primarily, like they're attracting students, they're recruiting students, but they're also attracting a wider student body. They want people that are going to bring things to those colleges. They need people to be on the ultimate Frisbee team, or they need the person who's going to be the class president, or the president of the LGBTQ club. They need to bring in all these different areas. And so that does not mean that like your student needs to be everything. They are recruiting and like an entire class to fill all these gaps. So have your students do what they're passionate about and find out other ways to get involved with that passion. Okay. Demonstrated interest is a term that we like to talk about. Some colleges track what's called demonstrated interest. And what that is they measure or keep track of every time your student either visits the college webpage, emails the college, signs up for getting information from the college. If the college comes to LHS for a meeting down at College and Career, they fill out the little cards. The colleges are tracking all those communications back and forth with the student, and in some case, it might help their application process depending on the college. So all things equal between two students. If there was one student that visited the college, that did the information session, did the optional interview, or whatever things were offered, the college might be more apt to offer the acceptance letter to that student versus the student who's on paper pretty much the same, but has not reached out to the college, hasn't toured it. I'm actually very surprised by the senior class. I don't know if it's still because of COVID, I'm not sure, but how many students don't actually go visit college campuses, especially applying to colleges around here. I know I'm getting a little bit off track, but I always recommend students visit colleges in February vacation if they can, or April vacation, because colleges are still in session, so they can see the college students on campus and see what it's really like. It's a great time to go see them. If they're applying to the schools in Florida and they can't go to Florida, that's okay. We have so many different types of colleges, whether or not they're going to stay local or not, but within an hour radius, they can see everything from a tiny liberal arts school to a giant university in the city and everything else in between. So they can just kind of get a sense of what they like and don't like. I talked about SAT scores. We're going to talk about that again in a couple slides. So I talked about more highly selective private colleges. We talked about like BU and Northeastern and Harvard, those types of colleges where they're accepting less than 10% of the freshman class. They're going to have more rigorous requirements. So the students are going to have to write at minimum one essay, one Common App essay. But it's possible, depending on the colleges they apply to. I think I was looking at Brown today, and they had 4 additional essays for this year. So that's just one example. So if they're applying to 10 schools like that, and it's not just Brown, it doesn't have to just be Ivy League, but other schools as well, it's possible that they might have 30, 40 additional supplemental essays. That's a big number, but some of them are short essays, and not all of them are going to require them. But the reason we tell you about that, because you don't want to get to the point where the students thinks they did the common application and they think they're ready to submit, and then they find out they have 5 additional short answer questions. And then for those supplemental questions, like say for Brown University, It's not something that you can cut. I looked at it, I forget exactly what it was. It talked about their open curriculum. It's not something you can cut and paste and then go use in Harvard. It has to be specific to that college. So that takes a lot of time and effort for them to back up those in the timeline as well. There might be interviews, like I've had students do Zoom interviews in our office, so those are other things to keep in mind. And like I said, the 4+ years of all core academic subjects depending on the college.
Can I just touch on the demonstrated interest for a second? So one of the things that's really important is when your student gets an email from a college, if they are interested in that college, they open the email and they click on the link. Because colleges actually, that's what cookies do, is they actually have the ability to track that you went and visited their website from their email. That right there, that 5-second click is demonstrated interest. When it comes to visiting colleges, I have 2 kids in college right now, and my daughter was set on a college. She was set on it. Everything on paper, perfect. It was everything that she wanted. We told her, you're going to visit a college 15 minutes down the road while you're down there. No, I don't want to. I'm not interested. I don't like the looks of it. It's not going to be good for me. She goes to visit the first college, 5 minutes on campus. This was her dream school. 5 minutes on campus. She texts me. She's like, I don't like it here. She's like, it's not my vibe. It doesn't feel right. I just want to go home. I said, no, you're going to visit this other college. She went and visited the other college. That is where she's at. So you can't tell how that fit is going to be from pictures, from social media, because I promise you, the first school she looked at on social media, on everything, it was perfect. And when she was on the campus, she was like, I don't feel welcomed. I don't feel like this is my place. These are not my people. So those college visits are super important. They do close them down over winter break, and winter break is December through January. So definitely plan for that. We know that some of those colleges, you don't really want to visit until you've been accepted. So if you're looking at South Carolina, why would you visit South Carolina if you haven't been accepted, unless you're going over the summer? And the summer is when you're not going to necessarily get that vibe of the campus. So just be aware of that. We really believe in physically experiencing this before you commit to spending 4 years there.
So the types of admission applications, so these are for 4-year colleges. So early decision, that tends to be a fall deadline, usually around November 1st, but they can be as early as October. Early decision is different than early action. So early decision is a binding agreement. We don't really see it that much at Lowell High School, but students do it, but it is a binding decision where you would meet with, your student would meet with their counselor, talk about the importance, because if and when the student gets accepted, they are bound to go into that school. They sign a contract saying they're going to go to school. And that's before they've gotten their financial aid package, before they've seen their scholarships. That's why I say it's kind of rare, because it's kind of hard to make that agreement without seeing that. So that's one early decision, that's one decision process, or admission process. The next one is early action, which is really popular. It's those deadlines, they can be as early as October 1st. I've seen them as early as October 1st. Often they're November 1st, November 15th, but put in your head like October 1st, that's where you can see some early action deadlines. This would be good for students who are on the ball, and probably all your students, because you guys are here, but students that are really ready, they've done the work, they're doing everything they're supposed to be doing leading up to it, they have their teacher letter recommendations, they've written their essay over the summer, they know what schools they're applying to, they have their supplements done. Also, these are students that are strong students. So if you feel like, if your student feels like, or your guidance counselor feels like your student might need the first quarter grades or to show colleges, this might not be the best option because the first quarter grades wouldn't be out yet. They'll follow up and they'll get them, but if you feel like they're not quite ready there with the grades, and that could be an individual conversation with the counselor with whether or not that's the right move. Regular decision, again, just check with the college websites. A lot of them are January 1st, but they're all different. So have a spreadsheet, have a timeline somewhere with all of these deadlines, and it's possible that they'll apply to some schools early action and then find out about some other schools and add them on for regular decision. So you could do some early action, some regular decision. Rolling admission means that they don't actually have a deadline. They, colleges maybe like,
Plymouth State.
Thank you. So Plymouth State is like a rolling, so when they get the application, they review it, and they give them an answer pretty shortly thereafter, and they take them up until the fall. However, with rolling admission, we do encourage the earlier you don't want to be doing it in May, because maybe there's no seats left. So still earlier the better. And then open admissions enrollment, that would be called like Middlesex Community College or Northern Essex. Although if that is what your student is thinking, we do like to get those applications in early because then they have access to earlier registrations, course scheduling, placement exams, and they can get the classes they want versus like walking in on campus that first day.
Okay, so I don't love this part of this, building a balanced college list. So we always say, apply for a few different options. Apply for a school that you're pretty comfortable you get in and that you'd be comfortable attending. That's important. Don't apply to Plymouth State if you have no desire to go to college in the mountains near the lakes so that you can ski and fish all the time. It's not worth it. So research your safeties and say, okay, what is a safety? Now, how do you tell if a school is a safety? Because they don't have the GPAs that they accept on their website. It's one of the kind of hidden mysteries of college applications is they don't advertise what they accept for GPAs. It's Googleable, and we'll show your students how to research that. If Common App is still open for us, I can show you that in a few minutes. But basically, you want to research a little bit what was the average accepted GPA, what percent did they accept from early action versus regular decision. So there's different statistics that you can look into for colleges. So they want to have a few safeties, they want to have a few targets. This is like, I am like 95% confident I'm going to get in here. I can see myself there, I like it, I'll figure out the finances, okay? And then the reach is, these are the colleges that I don't know if I'm going to get in. I have no idea. And you don't have to apply to these. Your students don't have to apply to a reach college. It's not a requirement. It's not a requirement to apply to a target college. These are just ideas of how we think about things. I will tell you right now, when I went to college, Northeastern was a safety for most of us. Now Northeastern accepts about 6% of their applicant pool. It is one of the hardest colleges to get into. When a student comes in and tells me I'm going to apply to Northeastern, I'm like, whoa, because I never know what Northeastern is going to accept that year. So the reaches change every year based on how well they market and based on how many students apply. So it's kind of a what fits and those conversations that your students should be having with colleges as they visit, as they come meet with them here on campus, as they do virtual tours. Is what are you looking at for GPAs for your incoming class? What are you looking at for nursing, if you're interested in nursing? What are you looking at for physical therapy? You can ask an admissions rep, what are you looking at for this? And they will tell you. Okay? I do recommend students have those conversations with college admissions reps, not parents. The college admissions reps want to get to know the students through this process, the people who will be living there for 4 years or attending their college for 4 years, not the parents. And I account for your budget through this process as well. College is expensive, as we know, and I think we all go into it with we don't really know what our budget is until we know how much it's going to cost. So as you do your, college exploration financially, you want to start thinking about, okay, what is a safety and a target and a reach financially as well. So we just talked about this when I talked about demonstrated interest as an add-on to GEN. There are 4,000 colleges in the United States. There is no such thing as a best fit because no one can experience 4,000 colleges to understand what is the best fit. You want to make sure that this is your students' most comfortable fit for them, somewhere where they will be challenged, somewhere they will enjoy, somewhere that they can experience. There's no substitution for firsthand experience and that engaging college visit. When they go visit a college, they will meet with a student, they will meet with an admissions rep, they will see the vibe on campus, they will be able to ask questions that they can't ask on a virtual tour. So we really, really want to stress this as much as possible.
I'm going to just jump in for 1 second too, because in terms of the college visits, it's just a piece of advice I gave to the juniors I had today, and there was only 14 of them, so I want to make sure I get that word out there too. In terms of scheduling college visits, you'd be surprised what they really book up. I remember I was working with a student last year who wanted to go to UConn for a college visit and info session for April vacation, and he was looking like 2 weeks out, and it was all booked up for April vacation. So if you know that you're going to be doing these things, start booking them for February and April vacation ahead of time, so you don't want to be shut out. And you can go and walk around on the campus on your own. No one's going to throw you out, but you want the credit for being there, the demonstrated interest check mark, but also to hear the tour, to go into the dorms if they allow it, see if they can sit in on an information session or like an academic information session, say for engineering, if that's the program they're interested in. So you can book all of those online on the college websites.
And that's a good point. The April and February vacations book up very fast because most of the states in New England have the same vacation weeks. So if you know you're going to be doing college tours over April break, go ahead and take a look now. And even if your student, as Jen said, if they're looking at schools in Florida, they could go see UNH, UMass Lowell, Emmanuel in Boston, Northeastern in Boston, and say Assumption or Stonehill or Roger Williams, all within an hour and 20 minutes of here, to get a vibe of, do I like a big school in a rural area? Do I like a big school in downtown Boston? Do I like a small school in downtown Boston? So that they can really see just, okay, I don't like being in the middle of the country. It's important to understand. So SAT test dates, this is really small. Again, we'll be posting this, but you can also go to the College Board website to look at this. So we've got some SAT test dates coming up that some juniors might be interested in: March 11th, May 6th, June 3rd, and they start back up again in August. What are the specific SATs called?
Subject tests?
Subject tests. Those aren't really used anymore by colleges. So don't, if you know, you went to college when I did, they don't really do subject tests anymore. So it's just the pure SAT. If you, there is a cost to taking SAT, I think it's about $65. If your student is a student who would be eligible for free reduced lunch, right now all of Lowell High School is on free reduced lunch. If you are eligible for free and reduced lunch, that you can just Google the national guidelines for that. We can give fee waivers for that. The house counselors can do that, similar to giving fee waivers to the college, for the college application cost as well. So know that that's an opportunity.
And just one more thing about that too is I used to work for Trio Gear Up, so I'm going to just give a plug for Trio Gear Up. If your students earn it, great, you know what it is, but for the students that aren't out there, they are still recruiting and actively trying to get more students, juniors. Trio Gear Up is a program that we work very closely with. It's free. I'll start off by saying that. They're here at Lowell High School. They technically work for Middlesex Community College, but they're here based in the high school. Your student would be assigned a college advisor, just another person to help them through this process. And they also do field trips to colleges as well. And that's all paid for, it's all free. And then if they're in Trio or Gear Up, you get 2 free SAT tests. You also automatically get college application fee waivers. So the college applications can be anywhere from $50 to $100 each, and if you're talking about 10 schools, $1,000. So encourage your students. I meant to bring applications tonight, but they can come down to Student Support Services or the Trio office. Ask your student, if you don't know, ask them if they're Trio or Gear Up, and encourage them because they won't take seniors usually, so they have to get in now. And just the financial benefits alone, and as well as the support throughout the process and the college visits as well.
With the SATs, know that we kind of keep track of this. There are about 2,000 colleges that no longer require the SATs. We're looking at probably about 15% of colleges still require the SATs. But as Jen said earlier, if they don't require the SATs, often they require something in its place. So I know Clemson, even when they were SAT optional during the pandemic, and you couldn't take an SAT, you would have to submit in its place either an AP score, a graded essay, or a 3-page essay that was approved by a teacher. So even the SAT optional schools might have different requirements. This is amazing. Khan Academy, I don't know how many people, I feel like it's such an old system now, but it's only about 5 years old. Khan Academy actually connects with your students' PSAT scores so they can get personalized SAT tutoring. So say they did really, really poorly on the trigonometry section of the SAT, Khan Academy is going to know that. They're going to connect their accounts. Khan Academy is going to know that and help them out. They can do practice testing on Khan. They can do practice testing on the College Board website. The College Board website is where they register for SATs. That is their website. That is not connected with Lowell High, so students come to us, they're like, I can't access my account. That's like a bank account. We can't access it either, so the student's going to need to work with College Board to get access to that account. Let's see if we can access the Common App or if I got kicked out. No, I did not get kicked out. Okay, so the Common Application, there's a few different ways to apply to college. What time have we got? There's a few different ways to apply to college. We have a school application, so like a Salem State, Endicott, MIT, they have their own school application. Then some schools have a school application, or you can use the common application. Plymouth State, Keene State, UMass Lowell are some off the top of my head that I can think of that use both, so it's one or the other. We always tell students, if you're applying to like 3 schools that use the common application, do the common app. It is a database of all of your students' common information that every college would want to see as part of their application packet. It's a little daunting, but it's actually not that bad. So right here we have my Common App ID, so some colleges say, well, what's your Common App ID? It's right there in front of you. We have 5 tabs across the top. So we have, and I don't know, so I'm gonna hit each tab. So dashboard.
I got kicked out.
Oh, that's okay. Can everyone?
Oh.
You'll see this when your student opens an account. So we've got the dashboard. I don't really love this. This is just a list of colleges I'm applying to. There's really nothing to it. Then we have my colleges. This is where we add the colleges that we're applying to. And when we decide to apply to the colleges, oh, I just got kicked out. Did you kick me out over there? Okay. I'm not going to type in my password in front of all of you. That would be weird. Jen, is yours saved over here? No, it's not. Are you in?
Nope.
Don't worry about it. So basically, the Common App, across the top, you add, don't worry about it. Just, you add your colleges that you're going to apply to, and on that My Colleges page is actually where you would submit your application to the colleges. So right here on the My Colleges tab. When you expand on each college, you can see what's required for them. So do they require an extra essay? That's what I was going to show you, is BU's extra essays they require. Then within the Common App itself, this is the application that every college wants to see, okay? You have your profile, your family, your education, your testing, your activities, your writing, your courses, and grades. Your writing is where you plop your essay. This is where all of the prompts are. There's 7 different prompts that you can just choose from to write your college essay. 600 words. It's a page. That's it. It's not 5 pages. It's 1 page. Once you complete all of these, you get a check mark. Once all your check marks are full, you can apply to college. You go back to your My Colleges tab and you say, let's apply. Okay? Sometimes students go in here and they say, my college isn't on the Common App. Endicott, Salem State, Middlesex, Northern Essex, MIT, they are not on the Common App. When you can't find them on the Common App, you go to the admissions page on their website and it says, use our school app here. And then you would fill out that application. Okay? Your counselor submits, so you submit your common application or your application. You submit your essay. You submit your SAT scores. You submit any test, any portfolios, dance, architecture, art, design, things like that. Your school counselor will submit your transcripts, your letters of recommendation, all of your school reports, because we have to submit a few. So we take that pressure away from your student. We take care of sending that in directly from Naviance and just get everything off to the college. But your student will submit this, their scores, and any additional required documentation. Okay? Over here we have financial aid resources. This is not that commonly used. There's some scholarships in there. There's some tips and tricks for financial aid, but it's not that commonly used. I don't find it that user-friendly, but it might be fun to explore at some point. And you can open this account at any time. It's not actually active for juniors until August 1st, I think it is. Yeah, it's August 1st. And then they can create their account, or they can create it early and roll over. And be ready to apply for college before they come back to high school in the fall. Okay, Jen?
And I'm glad that you brought up the auditions and the art piece, because I forgot to talk about that on the slide where I talked about all the things the colleges are looking for, transcripts, SATs, if they take them, and all of that whole slide. Caveat for students that are like looking for like a specialty major, drama, dance, art, whatever it happens to be, there might be a portfolio required or an audition. So you would have to back that all into the process about the timing, scheduling an audition down in New York City or submitting 18 pieces through SlideRoom for your portfolio. So those are, you would find all that on the college websites, but they could also work closely and individually. So that would be an added piece to the process for those types of students. Financial aid. So we encourage all families to apply for financial aid, whether or not you think you might get it or not. All schools, we do encourage all parents and families to do the FAFSA, to do financial aid. So there's two forms. FAFSA is the one that most people have heard of, but not everybody, but FAFSA is one that if you are applying for financial aid, that is the one that all schools require. So if you're applying for financial aid, you have to do the FAFSA. Some schools require what's called the CSS profile. Not all colleges require it. You could go and look up, they're actually own CSS profiles owned by College Board. It'll show you the list of colleges that require CSS profile. I like to highlight that because some students think that, like the FAFSA is the big one that everyone hears of, but there's some private schools that require CSS profile and they won't offer financial aid until you've done both forms. So again, knowing what colleges they're applying to, not only looking at the admission requirements, but also then what the financial aid form requirements are as well, to see if they require that form as well. This, the CSS profile is much more invasive. It asks a lot more questions about assets. It's much more in depth than the FAFSA. MIFA is a great resource, MIFA.org. They're a great resource. We'll have them in the fall for financial aid, but right now, if you want to get ahead of it, they post like so many podcasts, videos. You could even start looking, they have the presentations all online if you wanted to sit through like, a recorded presentation. They also have live Zooms and things like that, so bookmark that on your site. They also have great things about college admissions on there as well, but I tend to use them for the financial aid, so if you want to get ahead of financial aid and not worry about it and start thinking about it before the fall, I encourage you to bookmark MIFA, see what all their resources are, join some webinars and some Zooms with that. Scholarships, I touched upon a couple of the big ones, so there's going to be some that are coming up for juniors, some really big ones, but also other ones that maybe like not quite as big, but they can start looking for them through us, through Naviance. I'll show you where. If they join our Google Classroom, we'll post some of those big ones, the deadlines, and the timing for that. Right now we're working with our seniors on a lot of Lowell High families know about the Honors Night Scholarship through Greater Lowell Community Foundation. So that comes out in January. We just opened it up for our current seniors, where there's like almost 200, like 180 something scholarships from local community organizations, schools, and things like that. And we walk through the students through that process. They have to have been at LHS through their entire junior year and have at least a 2.5 GPA or above to be eligible. So if your students aren't quite at that 2.5, encourage them, because otherwise they won't be eligible to apply for the Honors Night scholarships.
One addition on the financial aid, you can actually go to any college website. They are all required to have a net price calculator.
Yeah.
So now that your Christmas bills are coming in, if you want to add on to the heart attack, you can go to that net price indicator and actually see about how much the federal government would expect you to pay for college. So that's always really fun to do, let me tell you. And the other thing is, there was something else on that slide that I wanted to mention, which I totally, the net price calculator.
So they'll come up with the
FAFSA. Some families will say, I'm not going to be eligible for the financial aid. There are colleges, and not too many, but there are colleges, and we can't tell you which ones because they change every year, that require the FAFSA for general merit scholarships. Some colleges will say you don't need to do the FAFSA for merit scholarships. Some will require the FAFSA for merit scholarships. That's been like a hot topic right now in counselor groups. So just know that if you're on the edge about doing the FAFSA. Okay.
Yep. And that also reminds me to bring us back to admission deadlines for scholarships. There's certain scholarships, I believe it's UMass Lowell has a certain, like you have to apply to UMass Lowell by a certain date in order to be considered for certain scholarships. So when we're talking about those early action, regular decision deadlines, once your son or daughter knows what their college list is, check what those deadlines are, and check what those scholarship deadlines are, check what those financial aid deadlines are, because you don't want to say, oh, I wasn't quite ready to apply and I didn't apply, oh, but I had to apply by November 15th to be considered for the Dean Scholarship or something like that. So do the research on each website about deadlines, scholarship deadlines, financial aid deadlines. The sooner you do your financial aid forms, the better. I believe, is it November 1st it comes out?
October 1st.
October 1st. Every year it comes out on October 1st. So not that you have to do it on October 1st, but shortly thereafter, if you can think of it like a big pot of money that the college has to give, and it gets smaller every day. I mean, that's not to say I still have seniors that haven't submitted their FAFSA, and they still will, but it makes me nervous. You want to get that in as soon as you can.
And you do submit it every single year that your students are in college. You just remind them to do it.
But please, like look at MIFA. There's, you could sit through hours and hours of video presentations on FAFSA. Okay, so Naviance. All your students have a Naviance account and have been using it since freshman year. They've been using it through freshman year, through freshman seminar, if they've been here since then. If not, if they're new to the school, they still have accounts and are set up. So this is what their homepage looks like. There's a lot of great features on here. When they get into their senior year, this is where they're going to request transcripts from their guidance counselors or request letter of recommendation. There's a lot of nitty-gritty things that are going to happen in here that we don't have to worry about quite yet. But the things that they can be looking at right now are the college search. They could start to do a college search. If they click on the colleges tab and they do a Supermatch college search, and this is where, just that preliminary thought before they've stepped on campuses, what they think they might like in terms of location. Have you guys talked about, what states are we talking about? What regions are we talking about? You can select either by region or by state. You can put in the states if you're limiting it to certain states. Also, you can talk about campus surroundings, large city, small city, rural. I have these conversations with students all the time. Some of them don't even know what the word rural means, so we have to talk about that. But this is why it's good if you're going on a family vacation or over February vacation, if you can visit some schools in different areas to see the different types of schools that they might like. Academics is where they would put their, degree type bachelor's if they're going for their 4-year degree, but then also a lot of the students don't know what that is, and for some reason this isn't scrolling, but this is also where they would put in what their major might be. It's okay if they don't know, or if they want to put in the couple, you can do a few searches. They could do a nursing search or health sciences or exercise science search. Admission tab is where we're talking about how selective colleges are, where you think your student would fit. They could work with us on mapping out reach match safety schools. So the acceptance rate is 25% or lower, so colleges that accept 25% or lower, so that would be our Northeasterns, our MIT, Harvard, BU would be in here, and it goes so on, less and less competitive as we go on. I always advise students, anything in the 25% or lower acceptance reach is a reach for anybody. I don't care if you're the valedictorian with a 4.7, class president, captain of the football team and everything else. And if you're applying to anything that's 25% or lower, like Northeastern and MIT, Harvard, any of those schools are going to be UCLA, any of those schools are going to be reaches, because you just never know. There's a lot of qualitative aspects, not just the quantitative aspects that they're looking for. Maybe somebody with lower stats, lower GPA, lower SATs gets in, because I always use the example of the oboe, because maybe they play the oboe, and that's what the college needed. They needed an oboe player for the band. And they didn't need the captain of the football team or the QB, because they already had that. They didn't need that. So maybe if you see why some students get in and not know, they're recruiting a whole class and they're trying to fill specific gaps.
Yeah, actually, I know someone very well first in her class, captain of 3 sports for 2 years, class president, amazing course record, did not get into Northeastern.
So
someone who was 46 in the class did. So, what's that?
So that's why we encourage students to like the other schools they're applying to as well. So they're going to hit their reaches, and they're going to get, some of the students are going to get into their reaches. So we want them to apply to their reaches for sure. But we also want to make sure they spend a lot of time on those match and safety schools and not just throwing them on their list. Make sure that they've either visited them or talked, done virtual tours or visited schools like them, and know that they would see that being a good fit for them as well. And so there's each of these categories, student life, if there was something they had to have. I only caveat all these categories, don't have them get too narrow, pick such specific things, because then they'll come up with 0 schools. So if they're seeing that schools are popping up, to kind of widen the search a little bit. And then the list of schools will come down here, and of course nothing's going to come up because I didn't click anything. So I'll just put in Northeast just to show you a couple of things.
I always like to search by distance. I tell students, do you want to go 2 hours from home, 3 hours from home? Do you want to have to take a train, bus?
It's funny, because a lot of my students say, they'll go anywhere. And then I'm like, would you go to Kentucky? And they're like, I wouldn't go to Kentucky. And I'm like, what about Utah? No, I'm not going to Utah. So I'm like, okay, let's talk about realistically where you're going to go. It's fine if you are going to go there, but don't say you're going to go everywhere. Kind of think about where you're narrowing your focus. So all I did was put in Northeast. So Bryant University, I could scroll through all the schools, but obviously it's gonna be a humongous list because I didn't have too many qualifiers, so add some qualifiers on. But from here, you can bounce and see what the average GPA is. Again, I caveat that GPA of 3.5 could be a 3.5 student who's been in all college level classes, or 3.5 could be a dual enrollment, early college AP student, and those are two very different 3.5s. So you just have to be careful with those numbers. But from here, you can link out to videos and photos and virtual tours. And they'll bring you to the website, and you can do virtual tours. This will also link up to like the website where you can set up information sessions and campus tours. And you can also see what the admission stats is for these colleges as well. So student life, admission. So this is like the first place that they can start doing their research. So that's one part of and then if they start liking things, they can start putting like a heart on it, and they'll go into a list of colleges I'm thinking about, just that rough draft, have them add schools, and you can start talking about them and visiting them. Let's see, on the self-discovery tab, if you're like, I don't even know where they're gonna start, what they might wanna major in, they have no idea. We have been working with them a lot in the self-discovery tab over the past 3 years, 2.5 years. They hopefully have done the personality inventory. We did that with them in December. The Career Cluster Finder, Career Interest Profiler. You can review this with them, ask them to share this information with you. I don't think I have done it. Actually, I think my son did it with me the other day. No. So this one on the personality based on like things that they like, don't like, what they like, what type of person they are, if they're an introvert, extrovert. We'll come up with some possible, a whole big report, and then at some point, some careers and recommendations for careers, and you can bounce off at some point. You can bounce off and see recommended careers and see what the median salary and then what schooling would be required. So if you're just looking for like, we don't even know where to begin, they don't know what they want to major in, maybe taking a look at that self-discovery tab with them, having them show you their results and working through those.
And about 60% of high school juniors don't know what they want to do.
Yep.
So don't be discouraged when your child says, I don't know what I want to do. Mine's a sophomore, second semester sophomore in college, and he's still trying to figure out what he wants to do. So there's careers that we have not even heard of yet, that your child knows about that we've never heard of. They're developing every single day, so know that they're watching, they're learning, just be patient.
The careers tab, if they know like exactly what they want to do, they can just start exploring careers or clusters and pathways. There's a lot of like great videos on here as well, like interviews with different people of different careers, so they can start playing around with there as well.
My favorite, Road Trip Nation. You can watch 2-minute videos on anyone in, a surfer, a governor, a culinary artist, a baker. It's amazing, and these are literally 2-minute videos. For those of you familiar with Joe Rogan, he's in here. Kelly Slater, the surfer's in here. It's just tons of people, 2-minute videos on what they like about their career, how they got there, different ideas. And this is in Road Trip Nation. I love this thing. Right under careers.
And then finally, the other piece of Naviance, this is where the scholarships under colleges, different scholarship search. This is the one, the scholarship search, those are the ones that we get at Lowell High School and that we put out through there. The planner section, nope, not the planner section, but the About Me section. They can start working on their resume in there. They may already have one or started one, but they can work on that because essentially they're going to have to just recreate that in the Common App. So if they have it done on Naviance, that's great. They can just recreate that in Naviance in Common App when the time comes. They can also print this out for recommendation letters as well. And that's something we can work with them down the college and career on as well. That's it for Naviance. There is like more nitty-gritty of Naviance and requesting transcripts and how to request letters of recommendation, but I'm going to save that one for the fall, or because they won't need to start doing that until the fall.
And just have your student go into their Naviance with you and show you this. It's very cool. As a parent, I loved it. As a counselor, I love it more. It's the amount of things in here are just amazing.
Yeah, and just remember, especially even for next year, but this year as well, like the scholarships, this is a screenshot from some of the scholarships we've put in, like the Mass AFL-CIO scholarship program, that's an exam that they take that I'm proctoring in a couple weeks for seniors. The award ranges, but these are ones that they could be looking at as well.
Is your Common App still open?
No.
Okay.
It's not. No.
All right, so we have a question on the side. the GPAs, unweighted versus weighted. An unweighted GPA does not account for honors, AP, early college classes. A weighted GPA accounts for that. So a high school or a college, depending on how they calculate their GPA, they might say, okay, a B is a 3.0. Nice and easy. Well, if it's honors, it's a 3.5. If it's AP or early college, it's a 4.0. So they have half a point for honors, a point for AP and early college. That is your weighted GPA, is accounting for the level of courses that you took. We load, Jen, we load weighted GPA into Naviance, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
it'll
so-
be the weighted GPA.
Yes, and so when you look at something like a scattergram in Naviance to see what is the average GPA that's been accepted to this college, because that information is in Naviance as well, that is for Lowell High students, average GPA and SAT score that has been accepted over the years, just for Lowell High students, not on a nationwide, and that is weighted GPA only.
So if there haven't been that many students in it, that first.
The scattergram won't be great.
For some institutions, we're on number 2,
Mhm.
one that's still in our GPA. And one of the big issues we had were sometimes they did not accept weighted GPA, and I was told that I could get the unweighted GPA, so
I think a lot of the colleges, we give them the weighted GPA on their transcript. A lot of colleges recalculate GPAs.
Yeah.
So they have their own formulas, and the Mass State University system publishes what that formula is, so the students can actually go in and calculate what their UMass Amherst GPA would be, for example. Some of the private colleges aren't as forthcoming with that. That's why I stress the transcript and not the GPA number, because we have a lot of students with like 4.7s and 4.4s and things like that. But the colleges are going to look and see what that is. I mean, a student could have a 4.0 but have taken all electives except for the core major requirements. So that's what the importance of taking the challenging classes, because that's what the colleges are going to weight. They might throw out gym classes. I'm not saying they are, but there's schools that like might not look at gym, so that boosts people's GPA. Gym and maybe I don't want to say maybe an art class or something like that, unless they're an art major, they might take out certain electives and not include that in the GPA. So if your student, say, has like a 4.2 GPA, recalculated at a certain college, it might actually come down to 3.7, depending on what they're including in their formula.
And about 60% of colleges recalculate GPA. No one will necessarily say anymore, we're not going to take your GPA. If they are, they're recalculating it. To do apples to apples. Because like Pinkerton Academy
Yep.
is on a 10-point GPA scale.
when a kid is building their list and they're trying to do each safety, whatever, and they're coming across a school that hasn't got a history
With Lowell High?
well high, how do they do it if they're not working with the GPA?
So comparing a GPA is actually really hard because you don't know what you're up against. So if you're Googling statistics, you don't know, like, okay, well, what does that GPA mean? It says the average GPA accepted is a 3.5. Is that weighted? Is that unweighted? I don't know. So it is difficult. It's almost impossible to say, you know, this is a good fit, and this is where Jen was talking about if it's an under 25% acceptance rate, it's competitive for everyone. This is a website, Jen, I didn't show you, I have this up, it's called College Navigator. It's accessible through the Common Application under the My Colleges tab. The College Navigator, this is from the National Center for Education Statistics. It is a federal website. It is statistics required from every single college in the United States. And one of the things that I love about this is there's enrollment stats. So this is just, I'm on BUs. So you can see how many students go to BU who actually enrolled, who are undergrads, 18,000, 17,000 graduates. And then if I keep scrolling down and I click on admissions, I can see the number of applicants by gender. So this is actually a pretty interesting thing. 76,000 students applied, only, I don't even know how to do that math right now, I'm brain dead. 29,000 males, 47,000 females. Who has a better chance of getting it, based on last year's stats? Men, okay? That is actually a scary trend. Less men are going to college than females. So just know that going into this. The percent admitted, 19% were admitted, 23% of them were male, 16% of them were female. They do require the GPA. They tell you the SATs, the number of SATs students who submitted their SATs, which was 32%. They tell you what the 25th percentile and 75th percentile of SAT scores were. So if you come in, your student gets a 500 on the SAT English, we're going to say do not submit because they did not reach the 25th percentile. So you want to be between them, okay? So this is just some good stats. Again, it doesn't touch on GPA because they know that every high school across the country calculates it differently. So this is where it just benefits you to compare against Lowell students or pay attention to what was the acceptance rate. And this is also where you can ask admissions rep, what do you look at for an average GPA? And they will tell you, well, for nursing, we're looking for a 3.5. For engineering, we're looking for a 3.4. For physical therapy, we're looking for a 3.7. For everything else, we're looking for a 3.2. They base that based on last year's standards. It doesn't mean your kid's guaranteed to get in if they get a 3.2, because what if all of their applicants have a 4.0 and your student has a 3.0? But it at least gives you an idea, and that brings the value of those conversations to have with admissions rep that your student wants to have with the admissions rep, to go to the virtual meetings through their website, to email the admissions rep. The admissions rep are people, they're just like us. They want to work with students through the college process. They are more than happy to email a student back or greet them through a virtual meeting. And that's where those questions are going to be able to be asked, okay?
I'm going to back up one more time, because I don't think that everyone necessarily is familiar with the scattergrams and Naviance, so I just want to show those who are maybe like new to this process. I kind of breezed over it and I didn't show it. So I pulled up UMass Amherst. So when we're talking about like selectivity of colleges, this is one resource we can use. Again, this is just Lowell High School data, so these are the people who've applied to UMass Amherst just from Lowell High School since 2017. So you can see, like, say last year, 147 applied, 73 were accepted, and 18 enrolled. And then this one's kind of crazy because we've had so many people apply, but this is what we're talking about when we're saying scattergrams. The green check marks are students that got in, the red X's are people that were denied, the blue circles usually mean like waitlisted, and that we don't know how to follow that. So this is the GPA line, so the average GPA line, and then the average SAT line, which I know has been kind of weird the past few years, so that's a little bit hard to go by. But each of these pinpoints, if I can get it back, like represent actual students. It won't give student data or student information, but you could see, like, if you click on one, like this student was accepted, they had a 1540 SAT and a GPA of a 4.6. And then you could also see, I like to see that sometimes, like, okay, like this green check mark way down here, they only had 920 SAT and a 3.1 GPA. So there's a story behind that. Did they write this amazing essay? Did they have letters of recommendation? Were their parents alumni? There's qualitative and other aspects that qualitative parts that we don't know the story behind. But say for UMass Amherst, you could feel like but then there's people up here, like, that have GPAs and SATs look well above that line, aren't getting in. So did they have spelling mistakes on their essay? Did they not submit the required letters of recommendation? But it does help students kind of plan for, like, if they know they're down here, their chances of getting in, unless they write that stellar essay and have a bunch of other things happening qualitatively that's going to get them in, that can help them pinpoint that as, in this case, like a breach school. And they can feel like if they're up here, not that you're going to necessarily say 100% they're going to get in, because we don't know the other pieces of their application, but you could say that maybe that would be more of a likely school. Did I get that confused, or did I say that accurately, right? So you can do that with any of the colleges. Obviously, the colleges that are like a little bit more rare for Lowell High School, like if you're looking at like a small college in Georgia, maybe we don't have much data, and that's when you can use different resources that Ms. McCarthy showed you, or also on the college websites. But for more popular schools in the Massachusetts, New England area, there's a lot of great research there.
Mm-hmm. And definitely, if you're looking at a small college that we're not familiar with or we don't know much about, your student wants to be talking to that college. They want to be demonstrating their interest. But we can clearly talk about this all night. We were joking on our way over. It's kind of a passion of ours to know the college process. Do you guys have any questions for us so we can let you go?
Come around the mic.
Yeah. So the dual enrollment or the early college, we have two. So dual enrollment is they can take a class at UMass Lowell, sometimes we offer other college classes on campus, and then the early college is a specific program through Middlesex Community College. The early college program literally allows students access to our college early with the support of their high school team, as well as support from Middlesex that other students wouldn't necessarily get. So you graduate from high school and you're figuring it out. This allows students the opportunity to get to know more about the college process, use the resources on campus, and become familiar with everything before going. So early college are classes that are offered here at Lowell High by Lowell High teachers who are also certified as professors with Middlesex Community College. Students get credit for those classes. They get college credit for them. They are free to students, but they do get the college credit. One stipulation to that is everyone says, oh, free college credit. I will tell you, a Harvard, a Brown, and any Ivy League is going to say, we're not taking your college credit. We're not taking your AP credit, even if you get a 5. A BU is going to say, we're going to take your college credit if it was not within your cohort. Just like we'll take your AP score if it's a 5. So there's different stipulations about what colleges will accept these dual enrollment and early college credits. So if you are in the early college program, if you take early college classes, you are then eligible for the Promise program, which is a commitment to our students. 60 students will be accepted this year to continue at Middlesex Community College for 1 year with all classes paid for. So that is that. The classes that, most of the classes are during the school day here. We are trying to open up a criminal justice class at night for the second semester. So that's ongoing right now for our seniors, and then juniors are on the second list.
And that's a good point too to bring up is the course selection process. I think we talked about that way at the beginning, but your juniors are just about to embark on the course selection process and thinking about things like early college, dual enrollment, APs, what they're going to be taking in their senior year. The senior year schedule is going to be extremely important to them.
Other questions?
Are you asking if this will be a copy of the presentation?
Yeah.
Yes, it's going to be posted on the Lowell High School website under, it's kind of confusing to find it, but everything that we post is under the Student Support Services tab, under Departments, Student Support Services. We'll post the presentation there.
And we are also trying to have it translated into multiple languages as well for distribution. Other questions? No? I guess we talked a lot, Jen.
Yeah. So we did you can scan if it works. Also on that piece of paper that was passed out, if the scan works, sometimes the service is a little spotty, so if you'd rather do it by paper. Sorry? Oh, need a paper. Sure, I brought them here if somebody doesn't have a paper. I appreciate your feedback just for us, like building programs in the future, just if there's any other topics you'd like to see. Yeah, so if for some reason the scan doesn't work, just fill it out and you can return it to us. I'm sorry. I'm going to make sure you have signed in, but we'll be here if you guys have any, if anybody has any more questions.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for coming.